So we recently held the 3rd official Brackeys Game Jam, an event where you get 1 week to make a game from scratch. And we were so overwhelmed with how many people participated in the jam. Over 2,800 people joined and we got more than 700 submissions, which is over twice as many as the 2nd jam and almost 5 times the 1st jam. It's always super fun to see what you guys can make in such a short amount of time. And this jam was actually kind of special because it's the first time that we've allowed people to use pre-made assets. And I'm extremely impressed with how well everyone was able to utilize this in a unique and creative way. So before we get into it, a huge thanks to everyone who participated in the jam and helped make it a success. Over the past few weeks we've been playing a bunch of the games, and while all of them are cool in their own way, we've chosen a few we'd like to show in this video. So without further ado, let's have a look at some awesome games from the Brackeys Game Jam. But first, this video is sponsored by V-Game. V-Game is a music and sound effects library specially made for game developers. Their goal is to help minimize the time it takes to find exactly the right sound for your game. What makes V-Game different from a normal music library is that it lets you search by video game categories and then download specific parts of the soundtrack like drum and bass, stingers, bumpers and stems to vary the soundtrack so that it fits the specific parts of your game. Besides this, they even allow you to search based on music key, level of intensity, mood, and much more. V-Game offers a wide selection of tracks from composers and sound designers around the world starting at only $3 to more high-end tracks made by Grammy and Gang Award winners who've created music for games like God of War. So if you're looking for music or sounds for a game you're working on, I definitely recommend you check out V-Game. We'll of course have a link to their site in the description along with a guide on how to most efficiently start using V-Game. So the theme for the jam was holes, and holy moly did we get a lot of cool different takes on that theme. Some of you took it very literally, for example in Feed a Hole, where you literally play as a hole and in this pit trying to swallow as much as it can. I was surprised how engaged I got in this simple gameplay. For some reason I just found it so satisfying to watch stuff fall into the pit, especially the small red cubes at the start. Other games had a more abstract interpretation of the theme. In The Whole Truth, for example, you're a detective trying to figure out what happened at a crime scene and in which order. In other words, the case has holes and you're trying to fill them. You walk around the scene and gather clues that you can put together to create events. These events have to be put in the right order to solve the case. The game itself is very intuitive and the UI felt great to navigate. And the fact that you can move the clues around as you see fit is a very nice touch, and it makes it way easier to organize in a way that makes sense to you. Next up we have Manhole Man. In this first-person manhole shooter, your job is to cover up the open sewers with, well, manholes, to keep the aliens from rising into the world from the underworld. Let me be honest, this game was weird, but in a good way and oddly amusing somehow. Especially the newspaper menu was very well thought out and a nice addition to the game. In order to win, however, you had to fight the alien boss on the highest building by surfing to the top. And let's just say that my surfing skills are quite rusty, so I never made it. Apparently thousands of hours in CS Source wasn't enough. And now that we are on the subject of aliens, in Hole Me Not you play as Planet Earth. Your main objective? To escape an evil alien race that's trying to poke holes in you. However, with every hole you get, a weapon appears making it easier to kill aliens, but of course more risky because you have fewer lives. The goal is to get and upgrade 3 weapons, which means that you intentionally have to lose lives in order to win. This makes for a really interesting mechanic where you constantly have to decide between staying safe and adding more firepower. On top of that, all sprites are hand-drawn on paper, which gives the game a very unique art style. And on the topic of poking holes and stuff, Fluffy Flight is a physics-based puzzle game where you have to transport an egg to safety. And you could say that this game is pretty extraordinary. Of course, the egg is strapped to a balloon that you can't control. Instead, you have to poke holes in the side of the balloon so that the air pressure will push it in the opposite direction. However, the balloon only contains a limited amount of air, and if you lose too much, it pops. But luckily, you have 3 bandages so that the holes can be patched back up. I must say that this mechanic really blew me away. Get it? Because the air is Anyway, you can also refill your air by flying into air bubbles. Oh, and I forgot to mention that there are spikes everywhere just waiting to poke some holes in our fragile balloon, making some of the levels quite difficult. Fluffy Flight is a nice take on the theme. It has great gameplay, level design, audio, and all this together just makes the game pop. Okay, I promise this was the last one. I don't want to exaggerate. Now, one of the most stunning games of this jam is Obliterator. In fact, we were completely blown away by the amazing graphics, shader effects, and overall atmosphere. I mean, just look at this. However, Obliterator is just as beautiful as it is frustratingly hard. It starts off all peaceful. You just cruise around in your spaceship soaking in the view. And suddenly, boss music starts playing and black holes start flying towards you. To avoid them hitting you, you have to stun the black holes with asteroids by using your gravity gun. However, it's not as easy as it sounds. Controlling the spaceship gets exponentially harder the slower you're flying. And if you're going backwards, it's just impossible. For me at least. But despite my lack of skills, I played this game for way too long. However, I think it's good to remember that you don't need high fidelity 3D graphics to make a good looking game. A good example of this is Hole Punch. This is a game that, despite its simple graphics, still manages to look good. And on top of that, it's just crazy fun. In Hole Punch, you're a very strong guy that can slice up any part of the level with a single punch. The goal is simple: get from start to finish while collecting keys or coins along the way. How you get to the finish line though is completely up to you. You can play cautiously, considering every slice, or as I did for the last few levels, furiously clicking to destroy absolutely everything as fast as possible. The game is very polished and has quite a lot of levels. The controls feel good, both walking and punching, and the soundtrack had me completely invested the entire time. It's good, right? Now, next up we have Enter the Ditchen, which is a 2D puzzle game. The goal is to dig through the level to get to the exit without getting shot by arrows. It sounds simple, but these few mechanics can create some pretty challenging levels, and I overall really enjoyed it. And staying on the topic of mining, in Pity Pit you also play as a miner who's trying to dig his way down a pit to gather precious metals while having to avoid the gloomy enemies who try to stop you along the way. One of the really cool things about this game is how the menu is set up. At the top of the game, when learning the controls, you have the opportunity of controlling game variables by digging your way to the different option buttons. Very cool way to merge gameplay with an options menu, and combine this with a well executed NES pixel art style, and Pity Pit definitely stands out. Now, many of the games were weird, or had some weird mechanics, but Portholes hit a whole new level. I'll just let it speak for itself. I can't believe how many times I've watched this clip. It's so confusing and weird. And the music is just... I love it. Thank you for submitting this masterpiece. Now in Wormholes you only have two actions: placing enter and exit portals with the left and right mouse buttons. The game instantly reminded me of a top-down Portal, so of course I liked it a lot. Plus it was just fun watching the little men fly across the screen, regardless if they hit the right spot or not. And another game about portals is Room Below, a puzzle game where you have to guide robots safely through the levels by using portals. Room Below has a decent amount of stages along with different portals and obstacles, and it is surprisingly good at introducing the new mechanics so that I never felt lost or confused. Oh, and it's a nice touch with the collectible Brackeys Game Jam jars. And staying in the puzzle game genre, we have a whole lot of colors. This is a really solid puzzle game that gets quite challenging pretty fast. I really like the setting, and the background serving as an in-game tutorial was a very nice touch. However, I must admit that it took me embarrassingly long to realize that you could combine colors. Oh, and that thump sound when you go through a gate? That is satisfying. Next up we played Realm of Holes. In this game you're caught in the Realm of Holes, and in order to escape you need to gather all the cosmic holes in the realm. A very unique gameplay element in this game is the fact that it has warp holes scattered all around the realm. Just like normal portals, you can enter one and come out of another. However, some holes will warp parts of the realm itself. In practice, this means that the entire level rotates so that you get to explore the environment in a new way and discover new areas. Throughout the game you slowly learn where the different warp holes lead you, how they alter the realm, and how you can use this to your advantage. The game is also filled with secret passages that often feature hidden riddles that will help you get through certain stages of the game later on. And that's pretty much all the games we had time to cover in this video. Of course, there are so many amazing games that we haven't talked about, so I definitely encourage you to go play them yourself. There's of course a link to all of them in the description. And the voting period has now ended, so a huge congratulations to the winners. Congrats to the makers of Fluffy Flight for winning overall, and to all the category winners on the screen now. Finally, I would just like to thank AquaXV, CodeMist, Hukoda, Job, the Dutch Magikarp, and Jillian for organizing this amazing event, and thanks to all of the participants for making it awesome. Also, don't forget to check out VGame. If you need music or sound effects for your game, simply click the link in the description to get started finding the right tracks. On that, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks to all of the awesome Patreon supporters who donated in February, and a special thanks to Faisal Marify, Lost to Violence Love Forever, Leo Lisette, Nobby Ninja, Daniel Desanik, Dante Sam, Jacob Sanford, Marc-Antoine Girard, Naoki Iwasaki, Gregory Pierce, Michael Korobov, The Mighty Zeus, Owen Cooper, Elson the Fierce, Yijit Kair, and Erasmus. You guys rock!